This is National Farm Radio Forum.
Men of the soil, men of the soil.
My name is Elizabeth Brown. I am a Canadian housewife and I'm worried about the food situation. In our city this winter, there have been acute shortages of butter and meat at times. Tinned vegetables are being rationed in an unofficial sort of way by storekeepers. Of course, we haven't really been pinched very hard, but it annoyed us because we felt it wasn't necessary. Most of us don't mind substituting or going without if beef, bacon, milk, eggs, or anything else is actually going overseas or to the boys and girls in the services. But if it's not, there's something wrong somewhere, and I'd like to find out what it is. Why should there be food shortages in Canada?
Well, now, that's what a lot of Canadian consumers want to know, Mrs. Brown. Yes, and farmers too, for that matter. And that's what we're going to discuss tonight. Mrs. Elizabeth Brown is a housewife from Toronto with her own family to feed. Now, Mrs. Brown wasn't content with asking questions in the butcher shop or grocery store. She's worked through the Toronto Housewives Consumer Association, of which she is president. She's discussed these problems in conference with government officials and food processors, and now she's here in our Toronto studio tonight to get the farmer's point of view. Three men familiar with farm problems are here to help her. First, there's Dr. J.B. Reynolds of Port Hope, president of the Toronto Milk Producers Association, member of the Farmer Radio Forum National Executive Committee, widely known as former president of the Ontario Agricultural College. Stuart Page from Barrie is Ontario Agricultural Representative for North Simcoe County, and he's well versed not only in farm production methods, but also in community planning and cooperative organization. Ralph Staples, dairy farmer from Cavan, is at present Field Secretary for the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. Now, both Mr. Staples and Dr. Reynolds attended the recent conference of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture in Calgary. At this conference, farm organizations thrashed out their policies on food prices and production. And that's the topic these four people are going to discuss now. Here's the chairman, Neil Morrison of the CBC Farm Broadcast staff.
Now, here we have three farm representatives and a representative consumer. Let's see, where do we begin? The topic tonight
What I want to know is, why are we suffering from these shortages in a country like Canada?
Good question.
A lot of farmers think you city people have been getting your food too cheap. They think that if you'd paid more for our farm produce in the last 10 years, you'd have more of it now.
Well, that's all right, Mr. Staples. We want to see the farmer get all he can, but we have had no wages in the last 10 weeks to pay for anything. Besides, food prices are a lot higher right now.
But even though there has been considerable improvement...
Don't forget, that's due partly to subsidies from the government, Mr. Page, which makes it still cheaper for the consumer.
That's true, Mr. Staples. Even with the subsidies, prices still aren't high enough to get the required production. Labor especially is expensive.
Yes, but if you're going to increase prices, our cost of living is going to rise. We'll need higher wages. Then what have we? Inflation?
Farmers don't want a general increase in the retail prices of food, Mrs. Brown. They know that will lead to inflation, and eventually the farmer suffers from consequent deflation more than any other class. But the Wartime Prices Board has undertaken to maintain supply as a part of their price policy.
Yes, Dr. Reynolds, and it doesn't do consumers much good to have the price of beef fixed if they can't get any, does it, Mrs. Brown?
Well, we think we're paying high prices for beef, and we still haven't got any.
Too bad.
Well, it's certainly not the farmer's fault. Look here, the figures show that in 1942 there was a 40% increase in the total amount of all dressed meats over the yearly average in the years from 1936 to 1940.
That's certainly a good increase, but it just makes it harder to understand. Why have we shortages?
I must say you're certainly persistent, Mrs. Brown.
There is.
Maybe, but I really want to know, and so do thousands of other housewives. These men aren't trying to dodge my question, are they?
Oh, no.
No, I don't think so. What did you say the answer is, Staples?
Well, I think we should emphasize the fact that these shortages are only relative. We farmers are producing more stuff than we ever did before, but the demand has increased even more rapidly.
Yes, the armed forces are better fed than they've ever been before. The civilian population is eating more, and overseas exports have increased enormously. For example, roughly a third of the total dressed meat supplies went for export in 1942.
I know it's true we are eating better in the city than we have for years. It's not the wages that are so much higher, but people are working steady and more members of the family are earning now.
I read the other day that civilian consumption per head, or per stomach I should say, averages 125 pounds of meat a year. Whereas in the army, each person does away with 360 pounds.
Wow.
That shows how great the army food requirements are and gives one reason why civilians don't have all they would like.
Well, what you've been saying amounts to this, that in spite of increased output, there are not enough supplies for what people can afford to buy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And don't forget that present record production has been attained as a result of the most heroic efforts on the part of farmers.
And farm women, too.
250,000, 250,000 experienced farm workers have gone from the farms.
And there's been less machinery to replace them with, Dr. Reynolds. There's no doubt that if more men had been kept on the farms, we would have had higher production.
Well, I can tell you, we sincerely appreciate what their farmers have done. I think the production record of Canadian farmers is a real victory in the war.
Thank you. But there was a difficulty we haven't mentioned, Mrs. Brown. Low prices have tended to discourage production.
But prices are higher. At least we have to pay more for our food than formerly, Dr. Reynolds. I don't know whether or not the farmers are benefiting from the increase.
Farmers are getting better returns now for nearly all products, but at the beginning of the war, prices were very low, and they were slow to rise. In fact, it was only in the latter half of 1942 that commodities like hogs, butter, and eggs reached the price levels of 1926 to 29.
But it is true that the index of farm prices has risen about 30% since the outbreak of war.
Yeah, and so have other prices risen in those years, Morrison, which offsets this advantage.
And not all farm prices have reached the 1926 level yet. Animal products recently have gone up, but the prices of field products, wheat and other grains, are still low.
That's true.
On the basis of 1926 price index of 100, prices of field products are still only 69. That hits the Western farmer especially hard.
But yes, that's certainly true, Dr. Reynolds. But aren't you men forgetting that these prices have been supplemented to some extent by various government bonuses and subsidies? For example, the wheat acreage reduction bonus, the fertilizer subsidy, the free freight assistance on feed grains. These have either added cash to the farmer's income or kept down costs.
Then there have been subsidies on the price of cheese, milk, butter. Isn't that so, Mr. Page?
Yes, Miss Brown, we can certainly agree that bonuses have assisted materially in increasing production and in keeping up and even improving the quality of farm products.
And on the other hand, some of these bonuses have kept money in the pocketbooks of you and your friends, Mrs. Brown.
What do you mean, Mr. Staples?
It's really a bonus to the consumer to keep prices down.
Sure.
For example, if there wasn't that 10-cent bonus on butter, you'd either have to pay for it out of your own pocket or else do without the butter.
Oh, I see. Well, as consumers, we are opposed to higher prices. That's why we want the ceiling maintained. Yet, mind you, I don't think people object to paying fair or reasonable prices.
Farmers don't keep pressing for better prices just to soak the consumer and make a handsome profit, Mrs. Brown. In fact, most of them can't remember what making a profit feels like. But it's as much a question of production as anything. If you don't have enough money, you can't expand your output.
I see. But take eggs as an example. In December, we were paying 56 cents per dozen. That seemed a very high price. Then, all of a sudden, they dropped 12 cents a dozen around the first week of January.
Don't we know it?
Well, well, it's that sudden drop that makes consumer ask why eggs or anything else shouldn't have been less all along.
And when there's a drop like that, farmers are apt to say, well, why on earth should we produce more?
Seems to me that excessively high prices are as disastrous to the farmer as excessively low prices. They demoralize the whole market.
Of course, the housewife will buy more eggs at 35 cents than 60 cents a dozen.
But the farmer may decide not to produce as many as you want at 35 cents a dozen.
From what you've been saying, it looks as if a reasonable price, somewhere in between both extremes, and maintained at a steady level is better for both farmers and consumers.
I think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
Right.
Since you've raised the problem of indefinite prices, the answer is the government having taken over the job of regulating prices, they should regulate them, top and bottom, floor as well as ceiling.
Yes, that's been one of the drawbacks to increased production in the past, Dr. Reynolds. Indefiniteness and lack of certainty about future prices.
Do you agree with that, Dr. Reynolds?
That's right. If the government undertook such a policy, it would benefit the consumer by ensuring a steady supply, and it would benefit the producer by an assured market and a steady price.
That's
see.
what we consumers are interested in, a steady supply of food, not only for ourselves, but for our husbands, boys and girls in the services, and for our allies. Could you men tell us what the prospects are for farm production in the coming year?
Well, Mrs. Brown, let's see what the situation is now. In the first place, food, and also fiber and oils, are absolutely essential to the war. And secondly, Canadian farmers can sell all the farm commodities, except wheat, that they can produce this next year. Thirdly, all-out production is needed. Big increases are required next year unless our allies or our own people are going to do without.
That's the big problem, all right, Morrison. How are we going to get those increases?
Well, that's what I want to know. Are we going to be fed next year? What's the outlook, Mr. Staples?
You'll probably be fed, Mrs. Brown, but you may not be as well fed as you have been this year. There isn't much doubt in my mind that we're in for more shortages.
Oh.
We'll do well if we maintain last year's record level of production.
I believe that's the general opinion, Ralph.
Well, now, what does that mean in terms of our needs? A government committee some time ago worked out the essential requirements for farm products. They took into consideration our commitments for export to the United Nations, the needs of our armed forces, the provisioning of Allied ships at Canadian ports, the needs of the Red Cross, and finally, the minimum nutritional requirements of the Canadian people.
What do these requirements call for on the part of Canadian farmers?
They call for increases in practically all farm commodities, the notable exception being wheat, which it is hoped will be decreased. Some of the increases asked for by the government are very substantial. For example, 28% increase over last year's production of hogs, 29% increase of eggs, 10% increase in poultry, 6% increase in total milk production, and so on along the line.
That's quite a program.
It certainly is.
It certainly
Certainly
is.
is, and if we can't make these increases with the enlarged export contracts, then it just means that the civilian consumers at home will have to go short.
Well, we don't mind substituting or going without if it's necessary for winning the war. But I think it must be done fairly, and that's why rationing is so important if we're likely to have shortages of food.
That's a good point.
You know, well, you say farmers will be lucky to maintain the output of last year. If that's the case, the situation will be pretty serious in view of all these increases Mr. Page says we need. But are you gentlemen convinced that farm production can't be increased this year?
No, we aren't
No,
convinced
you're
that
not.
production can't be increased. It depends on a number of factors. However, unless certain obstacles are overcome, we probably won't be able to do much better than last year.
Gee, that.
What are those factors, Mr. Staples?
Well,